محاولات لدفع البلاد إلى هاوية التدهور.
نهار الخميس كونوا الصبح في مراكزكم مع المواطنة.
Good afternoon on this Thursday, June 19th. I'm Yumna Naufal. These are today's headlines. Prime Minister Tamam Salam calls on officials to facilitate the election of a new president, stressing any attempts to tamper with the country's stability will be thwarted. The defense team of Hezbollah member Hassan Minhi tells the Special Tribunal for Lebanon that it should not rush to trial of the ex-Prime Minister Rafiq Hariji's assassination. And Iraq's foreign minister asks the U.S. to launch airstrikes on Sunni rebels to put down a week-long rebellion by fighters led by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Prime Minister Tamam Salam is calling on officials to facilitate the election of a new president, stressing any attempts to tamper with the country's stability will be thwarted. He urged the political rivals to prioritize the national interest and abandon narrow and personal interests. Lebanon has been plunged into a leadership vacuum after Michel Sleiman's presidential term ended on May 25th, with rival political blocs still divided over a new leader. Over the past 2 months, the parliament convened 7 times to try to elect a successor to Sleiman, but failed during the last 6 sessions due to a lack of quorum. The PM told conferees that his national interest cabinet will not allow any offender to tamper with the country's security and stability, vowing to safeguard Lebanon from the turmoil in the region. A row among the rival parties rose in the cabinet over a mechanism regulating the government's work during the ongoing presidential vacuum. The defense team of Hezbollah member Hassan Minhi told the Special Tribunal for Lebanon that it should not rush the trial in ex-Prime Minister Rafiq Hariji's assassination before giving it the adequate time to prepare for the proceedings. The legal counsel said on the second day of the trial's resumption that Minhi's lawyers are unable to develop a detailed line of defense because the trial started in a staggered manner. Mohammed Awini claimed that the prosecution did not put forward any motive for the crime, which the defense will explore. Prosecutors presented their opening statement on Wednesday, describing Minhi as a key player in the February 2005 attack. He played a significant and leading role in identifying a suitable scapegoat to blame for the bombing and befriending of Abu Adas, who made the false claim of responsibility for the attack brought on a tape broadcast on Al Jazeera. Prosecutors say Abu Adas cannot be the suicide bomber of the Mitsubishi van that targeted Hariji's motorcade on the Beirut seafront because his DNA has never been found at the crime scene. Iraq's foreign minister has asked the U.S. to launch air attacks on Sunni rebels to put down a week-long rebellion by fighters led by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Hashayr Zabari told a news conference on Wednesday in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, that a request has been made to break the morale of ISIL fighters. The statement comes as Iraqi security forces battle rebels at the country's main oil refinery and claimed to regain partial control of the city near the Syrian border. General Martin Dempsey, the top U.S. military commander, confirmed the request during a Senate subcommittee hearing. Meanwhile, U.S. President Barack Obama told congressional leaders he did not need Congress's approval for any action in Iraq. After a meeting between the president and senior members of Congress, Senator Mitch McConnell told reporters the president indicated he did not feel he had any need for authority from the steps that he needs to take in order to make that happen. A top U.S. military leader says he is bitterly disappointed by the sectarian violence in Iraq and that the Middle East nation's leadership failed to unite after the war. The chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, Army General Martin Dempsey, told a Senate panel that U.S. military men and women did exactly what was asked of them during the Iraq War. And U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel told the panel that it is up to the Iraqi people to determine the future course of their country.
We have done everything we could to help them, but it's up to the Iraqis. They wanted to manage and govern their own country. So I don't think we should assign the blame to the United States for this. I think we go back to who is responsible for this. ISIL, they invaded, but also this current government in Iraq has never fulfilled the commitments it made to bring a unity government together with the Sunnis, the Kurds, and the Shia. We have worked hard with them within the confines of our ability to help them do that, but we can't dictate.
The men and women who served in Iraq did exactly what we asked them to do. Al-Qaeda-inspired extremists raising flags over Iraq's embattled cities triggers in me the same thing that runs through the minds of any veteran who served there, which is bitter disappointment that Iraq's leaders failed to unite for the good of their people. I share alarm about the future of Iraq, and we are developing a full range of options to help stabilize the region.
We are looking at this through the lens of our national security interests. And again, the President has not ruled out anything except for sending U.S. combat troops into Iraq. And he has always maintained a position that the United States retains the right to act in defense of our national security interests when the Commander-in-Chief views that as necessary. And he retains that right in this case and in all cases. But again, taking direct military action by the United States will not solve Iraq's challenges, certainly not alone.
Coming up next, Smithsonian marks Ralph Lauren's 50th years of iconic American style. We've got the details when we come back. Welcome back. You're watching Future TV. Racing against the clock, nuclear talks between Iran and 6 world powers appeared tough going on Thursday, with both sides warning of major differences as they try to draft an accord. The hoped-for agreement would see Iran scale back its nuclear program in order to ease fears Iran wants atomic weapons and avert a conflict in the Middle East. Iran, which has seen its relations with the West thaw somewhat since the 2013 election of President Hassan Rouhani, wants painful UN and Western sanctions lifted. It denies wanting the bomb, but on a 4th day of talks in Vienna, Iran and the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, plus Germany, have started haggling over the wording of a deal. This is according to officials, but beyond agreeing a title for the accord, the Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Jawad Zarif said that fundamental differences were still dividing the two sides. And in Ukraine, a steady rise in killings, torture, and abductions by pro-Russian armed groups in the eastern part of the country has claimed hundreds of lives since last month. This is according to UN monitors, who say that at least 356 people, including over 250 civilians, have been killed since May 7th. And there were 34 monitors talking with the UN Human Rights Office.
This situation results in multiple human rights challenges for the people that are caught in the crossfire, or even the larger populations within this pocket of territories. And this has to do with access to public services, whether it's school, medical services, whether it's food, whether it's electricity, water. But it's also the question of a total breakdown in law and order, the inability to get protection when it comes to health treatment, detention, abductions, and possible also torture and executions that are, and we are reporting, are taking place in these pocket areas in the east in the course of the past month. The application of the Russian legislation currently is in contradiction with the General Assembly Resolution 68262, but also is creating multiple problems. Ongoing judicial cases, the registration of NGOs, the question of application of that law and the impact that may have on multiple issues, including the situation of Crimean Tatars, the situation of religious minorities. The report includes recommendations to the government of Ukraine and others. Of course, the question of reducing the need for law enforcement and security operations would mean that the armed groups would lay down their weapons and that there would be the beginning of a serious talk on the basis of respect of the Constitution of Ukraine, the rule of law, the territorial integrity as defined in the General Assembly resolutions.
Spain's Crown Prince Felipe VI has been sworn in as the new king in the low-key ceremony, which supporters of the monarchy in the country hope will usher in a new era of popularity for the troubled royal household. Earlier this month, his father, Juan Carlos, abdicated following a series of scandals that led many Spaniards to question the role of the monarchy itself. The ceremony at Spain's lower house of parliament in Madrid had little pomp and circumstance compared with royal handovers in other countries. It is more of a legal process attended by parliament members, high-level politicians, and some members of the royal family. No foreign leaders have been invited, but the event was designed to chime with times of austerity, palace officials say, mindful that more than 1 in 4 Spanish workers is jobless despite an incipient economic recovery. Spain's long reign as the kings of international football came to a dramatic end at the World Cup yesterday, with the defending champions sent crashing out after a 2-0 defeat to Chile. On a day when King Juan Carlos tearfully sealed his abdication after a 4-decade reign, Spain's players were booted from their own throne in 90 minutes. Chile's Eduardo Vargas and Charles Aranguiz administered the killer blows as Spain's trophy-laden era was brought to a shattering end at the Maracana Stadium. Chile's win sees them qualify for the last 16 from Group B, along with the Netherlands, who thrashed Spain 5-1 in their opening match last week. In the late Group A game, Cameroon were knocked out after slumping to a chaotic 4-0 defeat against Croatia, with the Africans finishing in disarray as teammates scuffed with each other. Spain's early departure will send shockwaves through football after an unprecedented period of success that saw them win the 2010 World Cup, as well as back-to-back European championships in 2008 and 2012. Ralph Lauren's love for the American flag and American style earned him high honors from the Smithsonian Institution. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton helped present the James Smithsonian Bicentennial Medal to the designer at the National Museum of American History following a naturalization ceremony for 15 new U.S. citizens. Clinton wore a pantsuit to the event that was Lauren's first ever custom-designed outfit for her, including a cobalt blue structured silk jacket. Lauren, who this year is celebrating 5 decades in fashion, is known for designs that have defined American fashion and for his patriotic uniforms for U.S. Olympic athletes. He got his start selling ties from a drawer at the Empire State Building. Now, Ralph Lauren has 25,000 employees worldwide.
Here at the Smithsonian, the home of the original Star-Spangled Banner, such an enduring symbol of our country, yet it was hanging in tatters. The painstaking repair would cost millions of dollars, but its loss would be incalculable. Ralph Lauren stepped up. Thanks to his generosity, the very careful work of restoration was undertaken. And I hope everyone here today has a chance to walk around and see it in person.
I've been inspired by America. I don't know all the reasons, how they came into me, because I was born in the Bronx, had a nice family, was the youngest, well taken care of, played basketball all the time, played baseball, didn't think of clothes, but in a way, I watched my parents. And my parents were wonderful people, but they couldn't afford to get me clothes all the time. They never said, "Ralph, let me bring you this." But they gave us their heart. And that's important. I have my heart in what I'm doing. And when I got involved with the flag, it was because I believed that was the right thing for me to do. Because I've always been inspired by America. I've made American flag sweaters. I've done other things that had reference, not for profits, but because I believed in it, and I believed in the history of America.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our top stories. Prime Minister Tamam Salam calls on officials to facilitate the election of a new president, stressing any attempts to tamper with the country's stability will be thwarted. The defense team of Hezbollah member Hassan Midhi tells the STL that it should not rush in the trial of former Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri's assassination before giving it adequate time to prepare for proceedings. Iraq's foreign minister asks the U.S. to launch airstrikes on Sunni rebels to help them to fight off the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Those are your Thursday headlines live on Future Television. I'll be back tomorrow for all the latest at 4:20. Make sure to tune in, and until then, take care.
هناك محاولات لدفع البلاد إلى هاوية التدهور.
نهار الخميس كونوا الصبح بمراكزكم.